All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Master Gardener Program Coordinator Meeting, May 2024. I can't believe 2024 is nearing 6 months in. It's kind of crazy. And I don't know if some of you were on the call earlier today with Vicki, but I'm not really sure what season it is out there right now. I'm so tired. I really want warm, sunny weather, but the wind has been crazy here. Yeah. All right, so let's get right into it. Here is our agenda for today. Announcements, telling our story updates, infrastructure updates, quality resources updates, professional development updates, DEI updates, and then if there's time, we'll do some good of the group. But all right, so I wanted to let you all know that the advisory group held our first meeting, and I'm very pleased to be getting this group off the ground to support, you know, our the program direction. This team plans to meet monthly for the short term, really working on building our, you know, getting to know each other and building our team. And we agreed also that we could either, as time goes, you know, spread the frequency of that, or even meet more frequently as needed. Feel really good about pulling this group together. Like I said, to advise me, and I'm certain that it will improve, you know, the way we work together toward that cohesive statewide program that works seamlessly with, you know, between counties, with counties, and with the state foundation and our local foundations. You'll see there are volunteers on this committee. There's a group from Whatcom, Clallam, Clark, Chelan, Douglas, and Spokane. If you are from the southeast area, and know of a volunteer who would be good serving on this committee, please be in touch with me as the coordinator. I'd really appreciate one more participant from that southeast area. And it's switching gears there to Master Gardener Awards. It's time again to recognize the volunteers from your respective counties. The Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State sponsors these awards each year. One is Ed Lacrosse, the other is Media, and then Volunteer of the Year. The forms are up on our website, and we need your nominations by July 1st, 2024. And also sponsored by the Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State are those Presidential Service Awards. So those are the annual awards where volunteers who give 500 hours or more in a year. So for 2023, they'll receive a certificate and a pin.
Jennifer? In case any of us don't know, could you explain what Ed Lacrosse means?
Potentially. I'm off the top of my head. So Ed Lacrosse was a volunteer in King County many years ago, and he went above and beyond in service to the program. And I know there's more to it than that, and it's listed on the website, but there is an award named after him in honor of him and the service that he provided to the Master Gardener program.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. So lifetime achievement, those are for volunteers who reach that 4,000 hour milestone with the WSU Extension Master Gardener program. That is received once in a lifetime. If they've received it before, they're not eligible for it again. I will be sending out notes with a link to our team site for you to enter the volunteers who should receive that lifetime award up through December 31st, 2023. There's instructions in that form as well for you to follow. These instructions can't come directly from Points of Light. Points of Light is the organization in Washington, DC that manages these presidential awards. So these awards are signed by the president and recognize that 4,000 hour or more achievement. So I'll get that out to you so that you can put those in. The 500 hour ones, I pulled those out of GivePulse, pasted them into that same spreadsheet. I just asked that you go in and look to make sure that, and put your county, if those volunteers belong to you, because the one thing with GivePulse is I can't pull counties separate. That's kind of a problem. Something that should be fixed. But so I can't see the county. I can see the city, but then I'd have to go through and figure out which city is in each county. So if look at that list, put the county next to their name, that will help us pass out the awards later. Go ahead, Mary.
Beth Chisholm is trying to get into the meeting. She just sent an email saying she can't. She's waiting for the host. It says, yeah.
Thank
So I'm
you.
not sure what-
It's hidden, so I'm not seeing it. I don't know why some of you could get in and some of you couldn't. It's weird. Thank you, Mary. All right. So does that make sense on the awards? It's the same process we've been using for a few years. If you've never done this before, I can walk you through it separately. All right. The in-person meeting, July 17th and 18th in Ellensburg. We're closing in on a hotel and closing in on a place for us to eat dinner. And so I should have more information out first part of June. I would say by the end of next week, but I'm going to be gone all next week, so I won't be able to get anything out to you that week. But super excited to bring everybody together and take a deep dive into some of those conversations that we've been having around program evaluation and some of the other things that we've been talking about over the last couple of years. And it'll be fun to come together and have those conversations in person. Please RSVP to be my June 10. And I have budget in the state Master Gardener program budgets for your travel, for one person from each county to travel. If you want to bring another person, that's fine, but their travel will need to be on a different budget. When you, once we get all the information out, you'll book your travel on your own, and then I will provide you with a budget number to expense everything to. Make sense? So even your hotel rooms. Okay. All right, so last month we started talking a little bit about the travel time and a policy clarification. Jana's on vacation and she was the one who was going to cover this. But I do want to let you know that the policy change is that volunteers can log or count travel time in very specific situations. And it's the same as like when you think about it, you as an employee, when you travel from your home to the office, you are not on WSU time. But when you travel from the office to a conference or to the farmer's market or to a school to deliver a presentation, you are on WSU time. So it's the same for volunteers. If a volunteer travels from their home directly to the farmer's market, they are not on WSU time. So I'm not really sure we want to do anything about this yet. I think it's going to be a really confusing policy. But I know it came up last month and I wanted to come back to it. Are there questions, thoughts, comments on this? Go ahead, Sarah.
It just, it is a can of worms, I
Mm-hmm.
guess would be my comment, especially in counties where the office isn't centrally located.
Yeah.
It means some people, yeah. I guess that's all I'll say is, I would love to do as little as possible with it while
Yep.
figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. Just a minute, Linda, I'll make a comment. So Sarah, and others, if I were in your shoes, I would be doing as little as possible too. Go ahead, Linda. Linda, if you're talking, you're on mute because we can't hear you.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
It's very quiet on my end.
Okay. I'm on my headset,
Oh,
so
that's better. Okay.
okay. Anyway, so if they're going to the farmer's market and we're calling that other educational delivery, would the travel time be counted as other educational delivery, or would it be like program support or what?
Yeah, just other educational delivery. We can't ask them to enter that
Yeah.
many different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next up is restatement and clarification of our political engagement policy. It is, whoops, didn't mean to do that. No. Sorry. With election season coming, it's very timely, I think, for us to remind you, and I have already received a number of questions about this, so we got clarification from our WSU ethics folks and reviewed the RCW and our executive policy 45 that speaks to this. There are some primary changes that I think are important for you as volunteer managers. So one of the things that hasn't changed, has always been the same, and we should all know this, is that we as WSU employees are prohibited from engaging in politics on state time using state resources, right? I mean, that's just a no-brainer. I think we're all accustomed to operating with that knowledge. The change, and I think this is a really helpful change for us that manage Master Gardener volunteers, is that now Executive Policy 45 extends to volunteers. So that means that volunteers are prohibited from engaging in politics on state time using state resources. So anytime a volunteer is on state in a project where they're logging their Master Gardener time, that is state time. So they must not engage in politics. You know, it's been our longtime goal to provide safe and welcoming space for participation. Alice, I'll take your question in just a second. I think I'm probably going to answer the question here pretty soon. So, you know, our goal has always been to provide a safe and welcoming space for participation. So when we are in public situations, a situation where there is a possibility that you will be seen by someone else, so it's at a farmer's market, in a demonstration garden, in a, you know, acting on state time, where, whatever, in a plant clinic, any possibility where you will be seen by somebody else, you must refrain from engaging in politics. That means wearing a shirt or a hat or a button or a ribbon that says something like vote for Trump or vote for Biden or any other thing that could be construed as politics, MAGA hats, or whatever the the campaign slogan is for Biden. We must not wear those types of clothes or hats or pins or aprons or what have you. We must avoid anything that could create a polarizing situation because we want to create that safe and welcoming space. When operating as a private person, because we all have our private lives, it's important for us to make sure that we're decoupling our private life from WSU by saying something like, I am here as Jennifer Marquis, private citizen, not as the WSU Extension Master Gardener Program Director. Think about the intent, right? The intent is behind this RCW, and EP 45 is neutrality. As state educators, we must be neutral. We must not show signs of preference for even using Roundup, right? We have to say glyphosate or some other chemical name that might be found in products such as. But we want to make sure that we're staying neutral on things. If we see somebody as a supervisor, if you are supervising, if you see somebody wearing that kind of any sort of political garb, we must directly address it with that person first by reminding them of the policy and making sure they take it off. This also includes Zoom backgrounds. We have an office. We can't have any sort of political information behind us. So if as an employee, as a supervisor, we must take care of that with that person first. If it's not corrected, then you can go to your immediate supervisor, take it to HRS, and then possibly, if it's still not corrected, we can go, reporting it through our internal audit. And I'm not really sure exactly how to do that. I'd have to figure that one out. Okay. Alice, go ahead.
Well, you answered my question about the MAGA hat. We've got somebody who's, yeah, anyway. Do you have something in writing that details this, what you can wear and what you can't? Are you going to send that out?
Yep, I am.
Thank you.
It's the policy statement, right? So it's not going to say what you can wear, but it is going to say, what you should avoid wearing.
Well, that's what needs to be done, and
Yeah.
it needs to be in detail like you just did.
Right. Yep.
That'd be great.
And
Thank you.
everything that I just said came straight from that policy.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks.
Beth?
I am just wondering about, and I put it in the chat, where the diversity, equity, inclusion falls in all this, and maybe it's in that document. Because it's a slippery slope when we talk about, but if we're just talking about political parties and not about people's positions on LGBTQ or, are they allowed to show up with a rainbow t-shirt on when they come to work in the plant clinic, or are they not, and maybe it's,
So I think that would be perceived. I mean, we'd had that conversation this morning on the all extension meeting. The question was raised, and the person who raised it said it's not a political issue. However, it is a civil rights issue, which makes it a political issue.
Yeah.
So that, and what Mike said was, remember the aspirational goal of neutrality and creating a space that is welcoming and safe for everybody, that does not polarize. So that's hard to do. I get that. But the movements are harder to differentiate, right? They're harder to pick apart and determine if they fall under the RCW and the executive policy.
Mhm. And then my second question would be, and I think you've already cleared it up because it's really about what you're wearing and representing, but master gardeners could still go to their, say there was a, well, county council meeting, right? And they wanted to help amplify what we as WSU staff might be doing at that meeting. You know, say we go to a meeting and we're talking to the Natural Resources Committee and we're telling them about all the great things we're doing as a elevator speech, telling our story. And if a master gardener were asked to get up and also share on that, is that still okay? Or is that a whole different topic?
That's a whole different topic
Yeah.
that leans more toward lobbying, in a sense, but we are permitted to state the facts. We are educators. So as long as we stick on that educational line, then we're good. But if we start lobbying for a specific agenda or money, that's different.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Harmony?
Hello. So, I'm wondering about, well, here at our office, we have the 4-H program has a lot of pride, branded materials for the 4-H program. And so displaying that here at the extension office is just part of the 4-H branding, correct?
Right. And it sounds to me like in New York County, it's not polarizing. It's just accepted and it is part of the culture of the program. So as long as it's not polarizing, right? There
Mhm.
isn't anything that's telling us we can't do that. That is a
Mhm.
movement. That's not political activity. That's
Mhm.
not vote for this person or that person.
Mhm.
That's a movement.
Mhm. Okay.
But always remember the intent. The intent is to create a safe and welcoming space that's not polarizing. I know that's
Write
not
that down.
easy,
Safe and welcoming. That's not polarizing.
right? I know that that's really difficult.
That's like asking us to make a judgment call on that.
Mm-hmm. And like some counties, having 4-H branded, pride branded things in one county might be extremely polarizing, but sounds like in Clallam, it's not. So it's different. It's going to be different in every county. Sarah?
So, I think in some counties discussing climate change is polarizing. I mean, what is, at what point do we say this is the science, and at what point do we say, oh, it's polarizing, we can't have a discussion, or we can bring in a discussion. And I also, in case you didn't see, wanted to raise Hari's question of what about having
Yeah,
an
I
event
saw,
at a
yeah.
Pride festival?
Thanks, Sarah. I did see it. So the climate change, that does not fall under our political ethics at the RCW. So while it might be polarizing, it doesn't fall under this policy because it's not politics. It's not political. right? I mean, I guess you could make the same
Except when
argument
it
for
is.
pride and, yeah. But it's not political in that, LGBTQ rights are civil rights. Climate change does not have a civil right. And so that was the differentiation Mike was making this morning. That's why pride, or the Black Lives Matter, those are civil rights. Though the people who are Black or who identify as LGBTQIA, they have the same civil rights that everybody else has. And there are protections in place for them. And so that's different in my mind than climate change. And then Hari, your question, does that include having an event at a Pride festival? So what I said about the movement is, and it relates to sort of just what I was saying, the Civil Rights Act, and it has protections in place for people who identify LGBTQIA or, Black Americans, or, religion, or I forget what they all are, but there's a number of them, disabilities, or what's the other one I'm thinking of? Genetic information, right? So though there are protections in place under the Civil Rights Act for those. The having an event at a Pride festival, I think, is absolutely acceptable for our Master Gardener program to participate in your county. It might not be okay in a different county, depending on what the culture of that county is. And if it's polarizing, then maybe think twice about it. If it's polarizing for your volunteers. But if it's not, then have the festival. Participate in the festival. Does that make sense? It's not going to be an easy answer. None of this is. The easy answer is don't wear, political garb that says vote for Biden or vote for Trump. And don't have it in your Zoom screen. The rest of it gets more complicated.
Hey, Jennifer, this is
Uh-huh.
Jason. Just real quick clarification. So is it our job as program coordinators to determine if it's polarizing or not? And then or do we need to run it past you? I don't know. This is
No,
definitely
I
a
think
can
you
of
can
worms.
make that determination at the local level with your leadership.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Are you going to support us? Because in Lewis County, we're like 80% Republican, gun rights and all that. We don't see a lot of rainbow flags. And I not that I have any issues with helping anybody regardless of the issue or political side you're on. I don't care. But I just want to make sure that we're going to be supported if we say, yeah, I don't think we're going to, have a booth at whatever rally or anything like that.
Well, I will support you, yes, to the extent that I can, but there are policies in place that make it so there might be instances where I can't. So,
Okay.
for example, showing up at a Trump rally probably shouldn't do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure because when you brought the civil rights stuff, that's a whole Zoom call right there. So,
Yeah.
okay, no problem. I'll go. I appreciate that though.
Okay, sure.
So just to clarify, can I ask, so
Mhm.
if say we're at the farmer's market and one of our master gardeners wears a little pin, an American flag pin,
That's fine.
but in some people's eyes, that's not. And so I guess we're just talking about real specifics here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they wear a hat with an American flag and someone's name that's running for political office, be it local or at the federal level, we have to ask them to take that off.
Yes, we do.
We need to tell everybody this before they hit the pavement, right? I don't
Mhm.
want to be the one that has to show, I don't think anyone us.
No, right.
We have to make sure they know going into it. And if they're not comfortable,
Mhm.
then they're not going to volunteer at that, or they'll volunteer, but they'll be educated on what they can and cannot wear.
Right.
Okay,
Well, in these policies, they're, you know, it's in the Master Gardener Manual. It's pretty clear that, you know, we can't engage in this work, so. Harmony. Wear your cougar hat. That's probably safe. I don't know, maybe not, since I'm a husky. I'm a husky. No, I'm making light. But I get that this is difficult to ferret out. I just encourage you to fall back on make sure you know the policy and abide by it as best you can, right? I mean, there are some things that are very straightforward and those you must follow, but the grayer areas are hard. Okay, and then finally, I want to remind you all of the injury reporting policy, and it can be found on our website under For Volunteers. Please have a look at that as we're you know, gearing up and have been working out in the fields, out in our gardens, at farmers markets. Make sure you know what to do in the case of an emergency situation. Make sure your volunteers know what to do, and make sure you know how to report an injury. I'll send out the link in my follow-up. All right. Now, yeah, Hari, you emphasize it in your clinic orientation training. Perfect. So now I want to get to the fun stuff. At least I think it's fun. And that's still focusing on program evaluation for impact and public value. We've been talking about this since the beginning of the year. And if you ask me, we've been working on this since 2018. Last month, we went through the reasons why program evaluation is so important. And today, I want to share some of the results with you that we've received already from the local food survey short term. Some counties have already grabbed these tools and are using them in their outreach events. So I'm going to share some of that with you. So let's see, start with some reminders. Program evaluation should always start or should always yield data that describes the why, that gets at why we do what we do. Highlighting the why is the most important part of public value. If the general public doesn't know why we exist, then we don't exist in their minds. The what we do to address the issue is important too, but the why is key. And in addition, we have to know our audience to understand what matters to them, to understand the why questions that they might ask. So if you're talking to your county council, who are the people on your council and what do they care about? Make sure you're hitting their why questions when you're talking to them. Also, make sure you're hitting their personal why, and then make sure you're hitting the county why questions. What does the county care about? What does the county have on their priority list? Make sure you know the answers to those questions so that we can explain to them how what we do addresses their why. Also, last month, we launched the local food program evaluation tools. And I asked that for 2024, that each of you choose at least one local food outreach event to evaluate this year. I think we've got 5 counties that grabbed the tools and rolled out evaluation so far. And we have 30 responses just between April 29th and today. 30 responses. Fantastic. I want to share those results in just a minute. But first, I'd like to hear from some of you who maybe grabbed those tools and rolled them out. And I'm going to tee up Caitlin May. I know she joined the Telling Our Story team just a couple months ago. New to the Pierce County Master Gardener program. She comes to us with a marketing and publicity background and brings knowledge to our Telling Our Story team that is much needed. So she grabbed these tools and rolled them out in Pierce County and offered to share a little bit about how she did that. Caitlin, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. Caitlin.
Thank you, Jennifer. As Jennifer mentioned, I kind of just wanted to share what my experience looked like on the actual rollout for people who haven't done that with their volunteers and maybe are a little hesitant or nervous about it. So with my experience, I set up a meeting with our Speakers Bureau team. Or they set up a meeting with me to ask me a couple of questions, and then I worked this into our conversation. And I pretty much just started by letting them know that there's a statewide initiative regarding program evaluation and how the Master Gardener program creates positive change in our communities. And I went through and I explained the 3 areas of change being in knowledge, behavior, and condition. I went through a brief example of, change in knowledge would look like learning a new technique for tomato growing. Change in behavior would be someone changing the techniques that they use to grow tomatoes. And then change in condition would be having so many tomatoes that you start sharing them with your neighbors and then donating them out to your food bank. And then I shared the fact that the purpose and the benefit of having this data is to have this information available so that we can share it with community members, with funders, decision makers, about really why the Master Gardener program is good for the community. And I also mentioned to them that this really is just another tool that actually will be able to empower volunteers more to be able to speak to the good that the program does. So I kind of wanted to just start out, like Jennifer mentioned, framing with them why we even want to do this in the first place so that they kind of have an understanding of that. And then I moved into the fact that we're starting with just the local change or the local food priority, so that we have a survey that's been created at the statewide level, that we are asking them to start providing that survey at the end of their talks. Those talks, first of all, starting with local food. And so then I went ahead and I actually pulled up the website, and we went through all of the new resources that are available. I showed them the PowerPoint that has a QR code, the standalone QR code, all of those different resources, and we walked through that together. And then I really just simply ended with a call to action of, so what I'm asking you all to do is incorporate this QR code at your next local food talk. And I walked through some of the questions that are going to be included in the survey, letting them know that one of the survey questions will ask participants if they'd be willing to take another survey in 6 to 12 months, and that will be monitored at the state level. So that requires no extra effort on their part, and that there's also no expectation for them to, at this point, adapt what is being taught in those lessons, and that we'll look towards the future, incorporating some of those things in our talks. And then the next day I just followed up with an email and I recapped all of that information with them. I sent them a link to the local food library. And this meeting happened on a Tuesday afternoon. And then my volunteer ended the conversation by saying, great, we have a talk on Thursday. And she put it in her PowerPoint. And then we collected our first survey result that just 2 days later. So that was kind of how our conversation went. Our volunteers were really receptive to it, and they were excited to actually have this data that they can use when they're out in the community talking with folks about the program.
Thanks, Caitlin. Any questions for Caitlin? Thoughts, comments?
Very helpful. Thank you, Caitlin.
Yep.
I liked the part of that you said it's empowering you as the volunteer, and how is this going to impact them, right? That's key, I think. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Caitlin, I would love an outline of that was just what you just said, because this is something I have scheduled some time with our growing groceries team and want to present to them. And that was like rock star version of what I wanted to do.
Perfect. I just used the notes that I had typed up, so I already have it ready. I can send it to you.
Can you send that to everyone, please?
Yeah, Caitlin, I was gonna
Yes.
say, if you just want to share it with me, I'll send it out with the team, with the
Okay.
coordinator list.
Perfect.
I could hear the marketing background in
Yes.
your. I don't think that way, but when I hear it come across, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so now I want to share some of the results. So this slide may look familiar because it's the same slide I shared last month. This is the example of, why we teach people to grow food. We teach it because research says that people who have access to nutrient-dense foods are less likely to experience food insecurity, which leads to high healthcare costs, decreased academic success, chronic physical and mental health conditions. And I also shared this. So this is the what we did, but it also is the public value piece. So this is what we do to address the issue of food insecurity. The impact on the folks who participate and the expected public value for all, even those who don't participate in our programs. When I shared this slide last month, the area under reported impacts was all in italics. And it was in italics because I made it up. We didn't have impacts to share. Now we do because we've had 30 responses to that survey. So now we know we have of those 30 responses, we have a 24% knowledge increase in selecting appropriate varieties to grow. We have a 27% knowledge increase in growing appropriate varieties. So not only selecting, but they feel like they can grow them. We have an 18% knowledge increase on the connection between food access and community health and wellness. And we have a 25% knowledge increase on how we as individuals can support food security in our communities. These are real data points that I was able to gather from the survey. So we're still missing, though, that behavior change because these are short term. So we don't have the behavior change yet. That will come later because these folks said that they'd be willing to answer another survey. So under public value, we still have italics in these sentences. And that's because the short-term impacts don't get us to public value. They get us to program impact. But the public value is the why should people who don't participate in our programs care? So once we get the medium-term surveys out, we should have some data that proves our program improves food access and individual and community health for Resilient Washington. And that we improve, that there's an increased engagement of growing food. I cannot tell you how excited I am to have this stuff. This is really gonna be a game changer for the way we report our impact and our public value. We're off to a great start, collecting meaningful data that will improve our ability to tell that compelling and impactful story. So this month, I'm excited to be able to roll out tools for water conservation, plant biodiversity, and climate change. So in 2024, here's my ask, here's my call to action, Caitlin, call to action. choose one local food event to evaluate, and then choose from one of these other three and evaluate one of those, either water conservation, plant bio, or climate change. Ideally, you'd plan with the end in mind, but I know that it's in the middle of, like, we're not planning right now, we're delivering. Planning happens in the winter. So it's, if you can't plan with the end in mind right now, that's okay. I'm still asking you to evaluate your current programs using the QR code. And, you know, build the class using the tools. If you cannot, you know, build the class using the tools, just keep them on the back burner and use them for development for your 2025 outreach events. And then finally, ask participants to complete that short-term survey. If you're, you know, you're at the event, you've delivered your presentation, have that QR code available for them to complete that survey, or the bit.ly link, however it works best for you. And then I will send out, or Debbie will send out, Debbie and I working together will send out a follow-up survey to folks who participated and learn about the medium term. What did they do because of what they learned, getting at that behavior change. So I hope you're seeing program evaluation as something that is extremely important to the success of our program and something that you can do. We've worked really hard to make this as easy as possible for you and for volunteers, but empowering volunteers as well. I mean, they're going to have data now that they can use. We have to be able to describe with data and proof the value that we provide to our communities that we serve and to the general population. Or we stand to lose voice. We stand to lose funding and potentially lose some of our programs. We have to be able to tell that compelling and impactful story. Doing so will yield data that will help us make decisions about the educational outreach offerings that we provide and that meet community needs. Telling a compelling and impactful story will open us up to new opportunities, collaborations, and partnerships. It will increase program funding. So I'm asking you to use the resources and the tools and evaluate local food this year and choose one of those other three. And I might add that we know that this isn't perfect, but we're getting started. We're doing something, right? We're going to get good statewide data with testimonials that will help us tell that story that we've been needing to tell for so long. Thank you for your support in this. Are there any questions? The new tools are available on the website. Debbie, are you on? Will you put the link in the website for the tool page?
Yes,
chat?
I just put it in there and
Oh, perfect.
Margot had
I have a question, Jennifer.
Sure.
Sorry, I couldn't find, for some reason, I don't have the option to raise my hand.
Yeah, I can't figure it out either in the new. I've been sitting on my meetings going, how do I get my hand to raise?
Yeah. Okay. Not the only one. So we rolled out this survey we had a tomato workshop this past weekend. And I just, what we did is we put it into a print version because we find that we have very few people who use QR codes and follow up on any that they're asked to do later. And just watching people fill it out, I could tell people were really confused about, half the questions on the survey are about food insecurity and donating food to the food bank. And we didn't talk about that in the class.
Right.
We have, you know, this particular workshop has so much information to share that we can't even fit the information we need to teach about tomatoes in the workshop. And so we didn't have the capacity to talk about food insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so it just caused confusion with the participants, and some people didn't finish the survey because there was so much that wasn't related to anything we were talking about.
That's
And we-
okay. That's why, you know, planning with the end in mind, like using the logic model and teaching to the learning outcomes, right? We can't
Yeah.
do that right now. And I said, that's okay. But getting our volunteers in the habit, us in the habit of evaluating our programs is a start.
Can we modify this survey at all? Or
So, I mean, Debbie and I have been talking about that, and we're gonna work through that and, you know, hopefully have some information for you in June. There are like logistical concerns that I have about that, like how will we have the data at the state level? How will you have access? So there's just a lot of questions there on how to do that. There
Mhm.
are, Debbie has created a lot of different survey questions that are not being used right now that are specific to growing vegetables. But from my perspective, I mean, this is gonna sound crass, or kind of snippy, but I don't care if somebody learned a technique for growing a tomato. I care about, because we have to get at public value. I care about whether or not they are growing so many tomatoes that they're going to donate them.
yeah, I get that, but the questions in the survey are presented like we spent a significant part of
Mhm. Yeah.
teaching those things. And I can, anyway, I understand it's complicated.
And I think it was the same even in these others that we have the 30 responses for. So in looking at the responses, I was surprised to see an increase in knowledge on those things. Because I'm not really sure if they were if those seminars or classes taught to those learning outcomes or not.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, okay.
But we're talking through that. We're talking through how do we make that happen?
Okay.
Mary.
Thank you. Yes, my question was about, similar to Lauren's, about being able to tailor it, and I think I have a solution for my need. So in this case of a co-sponsored training like we have in my county, where we have a county agency that is contracted with us to deliver certain training to the master gardeners, they want their own evaluation stuff too. And I got my brain cells all twisted in a tizzy trying to figure out how to merge the two. And finally, in one of my MG committee teams, an MG said, well, can we just do them separate? And so what I researched Qualtrics stuff, and it appears, I haven't done it yet, but it appears as though I can have a main survey for what the county needs. And then at the end of that, I can embed the link to the MG statewide, this survey we're talking about. So I don't know if that would solve problems like what Lauren's talking about, but in my mind, if I have local evaluation I want to do, in this case for the county partner, but also if I also want to include things like speaker feedback or anything else I want for my local program evaluation, anyway, that's what I've learned so far. Again, I haven't done it, but it appears as though it's possible in Qualtrics to do that.
I think it is possible. Yep. Sarah?
Yeah, I wanted to speak to Laurel's question a little too, because that was my first reaction when I heard this. And then I thought about the surveys that I do. And if I support an organization and they give me a survey and it's a little bit off topic of what they presented, I kind of get it when I fill it out, and I just think, well, I'll support them and I'll just answer the questions, and some of them won't be relevant, and the ones I do, will help them, and they need people to fill out the survey. So I think that there is a lot of goodwill that the survey respondents will want. They'll kind of see why this isn't as tailored as they might have expected.
And it's also giving us a baseline of where people are sitting in that knowledge. Marco.
Thanks, Jennifer. Question I had was the survey response info. Does that trickle down? Are you strictly using it macro statewide, or will we get micro? This is what your county responses.
Yeah, so Debbie and I will aggregate it for statewide use and then separate it for county use and send it down.
Perfect. Thank you.
So like I said, I know this is imperfect, and I know that it's, you know, can feel clunky and unwieldy. I appreciate you practicing with it and working with it and trying to get it to a space where it just becomes part of what we do. All right, couple of reminders here. Well, one's a reminder, one's new. So the update to the MS 365 project, we would love to have you answer a poll for us. It's a quick one. I'm going to try to launch it right now. So we want to know if your county already has a domain or not. A domain is like skagitmg.org. Or I think King has one, kingmg.org. And if you have one, what is it? Are you all seeing the poll?
Are you talking the can foundations count, foundation website or not?
Okay. Not necessarily. Yeah, go ahead and put the foundation websites in there.
Okay, thanks.
So as you guys are working through that, I want to remind you about the Staying Safe on the Internet, that we've partnered with 4-H Tech Changemakers. And on June 4th, 2024, a 4-H'er will present on creating secure passwords, storing passwords, avoiding scams, forming safe habits for online work, and using a VPN. We have 85 registrations so far, so that's fantastic. You should have received a flyer from me to use to market the course. 1 hour of CE. It will be recorded.
Jennifer,
right.
can I add to that?
Sure.
The tech change maker Joseph, who's going to present that class on internet or web security, talked to the Spokane Master Gardeners last year and the year before, and he did a great job of breaking through some of the what am I trying to say? When the county sends us internet security training that we have to do, it's kind of hard for my volunteers to do it, but he kind of broke through that and was able to talk to them at their level. So I really appreciated the chance to have him talk to our volunteers.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Tim, for saying that. You know, in the email that I sent, I mentioned that a little bit, that Joseph has practiced this a couple of times and has honed it specifically for the Master Gardener volunteers. It should be a great training. Quality resources reminder, online training is moving to $85 starting fall 2024. If you are a rolling enrollment county, that $85 is effective right now. And then we've changed registration softwares from Cvent to Stova. Shouldn't make a difference for you. The registration link will change, and I'll be sending those out. So please be on the lookout for those new registration links. Emerald ash borer. There's been a positive sighting in BC. Kevin Zobrist, one of our foresters, has tons of emerald ash borer publications. One is an extension manual, the other one is a fact sheet that are pre-printed. And I'll have those available for you at the in-person meeting. Tim and I are participating in a statewide, actually, I think it's broader than that, meetings to work through how we're going to communicate about emerald ash borer and how we're going to involve the Master Gardener volunteers in this. So be on the lookout for that.
Sorry, Jennifer, could you repeat who has the printed material? Is it
Kevin Zobrist.
Kevin Zobrist? Okay, good.
And we're gonna bring him to the July meeting. Yeah.
Could you repeat where it was cited?
British Columbia and Oregon.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just, and Tim, do you know if it has been seen in Idaho?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right, on to professional development. The National Extension Coordinators Conference is coming up right around the corner. The Telling Our Story team submitted a proposal to do a workshop on the evaluation work that we're doing. So we should know by the end of the month if we have been selected. If you have travel dollars, I highly recommend that you attend this conference. I think right now there's maybe 3 or 4 coordinators that are, including myself, that are planning to go. Should be a great conference. It's so inspiring to go and listen to what other states are doing. It's inspiring, but then I also come home kind of jealous because of everything that goes on around the nation. So and then also on the professional development side is for volunteers, and Debbie Benbow and the Advanced Education Conference team have put together a short slide deck for you to use to share the news about the conference. Debbie, do you want to take the stage?
Sure. This slideshow has been posted on the volunteer resources page. There is you'll see a tile with the conference logo, and there are resources in there. Okay, next. So this year it's virtual, and the benefits of that is it makes it more affordable. There's no travel, no accommodation to have to, pay for. There's over 36 classes and learning opportunities, and all of those are good for CE credits. So it comes out to only $3.03 per class, and that's not even including the keynote. All of the sessions are going to be recorded, and they'll be made available to registered participants for a limited time after the event closes. So the production company needs a few days to put everything together, I guess, and then they'll be available for 30 days after they're released, and so that'll make it about the first part of November. And if you haven't gone to the website and read about the keynote speaker, you'll want to do that. She did a TED Talk recently, and I haven't listened to it yet, but it was pretty fantastic from what I'm hearing. Go ahead. Something didn't show up on that last slide. It kind of threw me. So registration opens June 1st. It's $109 for early bird. And that price goes until the end of June, and July 1st, it goes up to $135. But even at $139, it's still a bargain. And it includes all of the class recordings. Okay. We will have sharing success, so you'll hear more about that in the next few weeks. We'll be reaching out and asking for some sharing success stories. And the sharing success, what we've actually decided to do is create a web page that will have links to all of the stories. So we want those to be available to everybody. Okay, go ahead. So the way you can help is to spread the word, invite your gardening friends. It is open to the public, to all garden enthusiasts. Register, and then we're looking for sponsors. So we have a team that's just getting started doing that. We have a few sponsors so far, and they're mainly Master Gardener foundations, but we'll be reaching out to some corporate sponsors as well. So, and that's about it. I'll put the link to the website in the chat.
Right. Thanks, Debbie. I might also add that we are looking for volunteers who would be interested in being a part of the 2025 conference. The State Foundation has been talking about this for some time, hosting a all in-person conference in one location is prohibitively expensive. They're looking at dispersed models of hosting the conference, utilizing some of WSU's learning locations or other locations. So the so the foundation is recruiting for innovative volunteer leaders who might want to be a part of what the next generation of advanced education conferences look like. If you have a volunteer or volunteers in your county that you think might be interested in paving the way for a new look and feel for our conferences, please let me know. This is a group that would work very closely with me and with the State Foundation. So, but it is going to be like a whole brand new way of doing this. And we think it will encourage and allow for more volunteers to attend and receive advanced education in horticulture and environmental stewardship. All right, so next I want to pass the baton to Tessa and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group. Tessa, are you still on?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Thanks, Tessa.
So this will be real quick. So a few of us in the DEI team have been meeting monthly and reworking our DEI plan. And so within that, one of our main goals is to develop tools that can support recruiting and training a diverse applicant pool for the WSU Master Gardener program. And we decided a good achievable first step in this would be assessing and editing the application to support inclusion. And so we started working on that just last month in April. And overall, we're just trying to look at simplifying the application to reduce some perceived barriers, and then also work on avoiding industry language or technical terms that might also dissuade people from applying or thinking that they're eligible to apply. And so right after this, actually, we have our final editing meeting, and then we're going to be looking at gathering input potentially from some county DEI teams and or maybe some of the WSU Connors DEI committee staff. And then it will go through Jana and HR, and then hopefully we should have the final version out by the end of June. So, I don't know. Jennifer, did you want me to touch on anything else or just cover
I think that's good. Yeah, I mean, this is all in, you know, the effort to increase the diversity. We're using approaches that, you know, that simplify the application, reduce perceived barriers. So we're looking at other institutions and thinking about and information on the Extension Master Gardener Coordinator, the national resources. So hopefully, by doing this, the application will be less intense. Thank you, Tessa. More to come on that. All right, I think we've hit the end. Thanks all. The next meeting is in June 26th. If you please RSVP to me by June 10th for the in-person meeting, so we know who we're feeding. And again, I have a budget for one person from each county, but feel free to bring more if you have the budget for them. All right, I thought I just had heard a huge thunderclap, but it was just a plane. All right.
Jennifer, are there travel funds for the in-person meeting?
I
that we
have
can
travel
use?
funds for one person from each county.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How do we access that? Or how do we just tell you that we're coming and you take
Yeah,
care
so
of it?
tell me that you're coming, but you will need to travel using your own dollars, and then you will be reimbursed. If that is
Okay.
a issue, then we can do it differently. But I've
Okay.
never done that before, so we'd have to figure it out together. But I know it's
Okay.
possible to
Okay.
get in advance.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll see you next month. And I'm sure I'll see many of you before that. Take care.